And we are now live.
All right.
Hi.
Good.
Hello? Are we ready to race?
Yes, we are. Commissioner Davis, go ahead and take it away.
Okay, sorry, I lost that. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and call this meeting to order. Hi, my name is Willie Davis. I'm your interim chair for the Human Relations Commission. On the day of September 9th, 2021, and what time we here, Zach? Anybody got the right time? Well, I believe it's 5:37 p.m.
Yeah.
I'd like to start off tonight, if we could, ask for a roll call, if we could. If you would do that for us, please, Miss Denise, Miss Taylor, we get a roll call for who's out here.
Yes, thank you, Interim Chair Davis. Interim Chair Davis,
Yes, ma'am. Here.
Council Liaison Johnson,
Here.
Commissioner Barker, Commissioner Clark, Commissioner Iqbal, Commissioner Jones,
Here.
Commissioner McGregor,
Here.
Commissioner Price,
Here.
Commissioner Monzi,
Here.
Commissioner Gilbert,
Here.
and then for staff, Mr. Hollis,
Here.
Mr. McCray.
Here.
All right, thank you. I'll hand the floor back over to you, Interim Chair Davis.
Is that it? So everyone, you got everyone?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, next, if we could, we'd like to move on to our next thing is we'd like to take a minute to look at our minutes from our previous.
We lost him.
I think Mr. Davis cut out briefly.
Yeah, he's still talking.
Mr. Davis, you're on
Yeah,
mute for some
He's
reason.
on mute.
Grace, can you hear me now?
Yes.
I'm sorry about that. Get out of this traffic jam. I'll be parked here. Okay. If we can we start, can we go take a look at our minutes for 2012, August 12th, 2021? Can we take a few minutes to look at that and see if anyone has any corrections that need to be made? Grace.
Yep. I think everyone received a copy of the minutes in our email from Denise. Those were, would it be helpful for me to bring those up on my screen, everybody, or were you able to review them ahead of time?
I reviewed them.
I've already reviewed mine also.
Okay.
Has
Then, Mr.
everyone had a
Davis, I
chance to
think
look
you
at
can
them?
just take a vote to approve them or not.
Okay.
If someone would make a
Can I get
motion.
can I get a motion to approve the minutes, please?
I make a motion to approve the minutes from August 12th, 2021.
And I second.
Okay,
Commissioner Jones.
okay. Ms. Taylor, can you take a roll call on the approval?
Certainly. Interim Chair Davis, Commissioner Jones,
Aye.
Commissioner McGregor,
Aye.
Commissioner Price,
Aye.
Commissioner Monzi,
Aye.
Commissioner Gilbert, Aye. Interim Chair Davis? I see you nodding yes. I'll put you down as an aye. You're on mute. Okay, so then the motion passes with a vote of 6-0.
All right. Interim Chair, you're on mute.
Aye. You just reconnected.
Grace, while the interim chair is having some technical difficulties, maybe we can designate someone to kind of push us through.
Absolutely. Would someone like to take on the roles for the chair real quick? We do not have a vice chair currently because we haven't elected one. So if anyone just wants to volunteer for tonight, it would be on the agenda that we sent out and we can help guide you through that.
I thought I saw a smile from Commissioner Jones. That's a positive sign.
Yeah, you saw a smile, but I don't know if that's what that meant. But yeah, you'll have to help me. You'll have to help me through.
We'll absolutely help you.
All right, so the next thing on the agenda is the human relations orientation. So I'm assuming, Ms. McCray, you have an update on that or some information on that?
Absolutely. Yeah, so just to give you all a heads up on how kind of where we are and what we're doing. Tonight, every year, so the way our commission is written into the statute, every year we are expected to do 2 retreats and come up with 2 work plans. In this sense, a work plan is kind of a plan of what we're going to do for the remainder of the year. Sometimes those work plans will continue on from one another. So we may develop a work plan, say in January, that then continues on in our July or September retreat, that we could say, hey, we're still working on this. This is just an update and we approve it to continue working on it for the rest of the year. That's possible in any situation. However, in this particular case, we have actually essentially completed our work plan from January. So we established 3 items in January. One was to look at fair housing and explore the feasibility of us becoming a fair housing assistance program. And as you all recall, at our last meeting, we voted to make a recommendation to the city council that we do exactly that. And so that item, at least for the time being, is completed. We're going to follow up with next steps today, what that'll look like. But at this point, we're in a good position for that. The second plan or item on our work plan was a homework help program, which we've moved forward in a lot of ways. But one of the contingencies we've always said is that this is somewhat dependent on in-person interactions. And that was looking very good with the rise of vaccines, but with the advent of the COVID and the further spread of that in our community, we've decided that that's probably in our best interest to continue to be just in a holding pattern for that. So there's no action items to take on that at this time yet. And then in a third plan item was to explore the possibility of some kind of community mediation. And I provided an update at one of our previous meetings, but basically we discussed that with a community mediation leader and resource center in another city. And they said that that's a lot of work that would essentially take way more work than we were at the time as a commission committed to. So we would need to explore that further. And that essentially catches us up to where we are today. So it's our duty to then establish a new work plan. And we would do that by doing a retreat, which we would like to do as kind of one of our next big steps as a commission. We were also waiting a little bit for our full commission to be appointed since we had some absences. So we kind of put that off until we could all meet. And so today I'm going to essentially help walk us through to lead the groundwork for exactly that, for establishing a retreat that we can all attend and developing a work plan. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what it means to be a commissioner and kind of what commissions across America do and what our commission has been statutorily kind of committed to, and how that all operates. And we're going to take your questions. For some of you, this may be information that you've already had either in a presentation before or in conversations with me individually. And for others of you, since this is your first commission meeting, this might be entirely new. So we'll take some time to offer questions answer questions if you have them. And I want you to just keep in mind that this is leading towards what will we be doing in our upcoming retreat and how you can further serve the commission. So let me share my screen real quick. All right. Are you all seeing that presentation?
Yes.
Yes, we are.
Thank you.
Yes.
So this is a fairly short and simple presentation. And the gist of it is that we're going to go over a little bit of the mission and function of the Human Relations Commission and the Human Relations Office. We're going to specifically talk about human relation commissions, both ours and our ones across the America a little bit, and then also prepare for our retreat. So that's our goal. So just to give you kind of a gist of what we do, the mission for the Human Relations Office is to promote equality of opportunity for citizens of High Point by advocating policies of non-discrimination and serving as an informational resource regarding city, state, and federal laws that prohibit discrimination in employment, fair housing, and public accommodation. So as you can see, the most important part of that is we promote equality, we serve as an informational resource, and we specifically direct people to ways that prohibit discrimination. So I'm going to kind of look at that in three different kind of ways that I kind of think of as our office. So the first is we work to protect civil rights. And in the office here, which has all of these things that I'm going to be talking about we do in the office are also things that relate to the commission in its own way. So I'll kind of make some distinctions there, but also know that all of these are related. So the office protects civil rights. And one of the main ways we do that is we work out kind of as a first level of response for landlord-tenant disputes, and also for fair housing training, advising, and referrals. So this is a piece that we're already doing. We do also handle other related claims for the Americans with Disability Act, for equal employment opportunity. And as it said, we serve as kind of an information resource where we can direct various people who are experiencing hardship or discrimination and send them to the resources that could best help them. So that might be legal aid, that might be the North Carolina Human Relations Commission, that might be, say, the Guilford Family Justice Center or a social worker, any kind of resources like that in our community. It might be food banks, it might be mental health programs. And we help protect those civil rights by serving these customers as they walk in the door. And that's kind of one of our basic day-to-day functions. the commission itself, you have already taken on some of this by looking at how we can be more fully involved in fair housing by becoming a FAP. So that's one way that you've done that. And there are other possible ways we could do this that focus on protecting civil rights. Kind of the second thrust of our programs is to promote equal opportunity. So these are various human rights initiatives, various resource sharing partnerships. So this is, for example, when those of you came out and helped with the backpack program, this was a good example of like one where we kind of made some resources available to our community because we thought that this was something that wasn't available without us helping. This might also be attending various events or even, tabling and promoting maybe job fairs or things like that that are related kind of to how do we get equal access to these things and kind of lift up the city as a whole. The last kind of thrust of the office is positive community relations. So these would be multicultural and diversity awareness activities, community dialogues. So things like this might be some of our interfaith activities, some of our international activities that explore different cultures and bring kind of everyone into being able to celebrate differences, and such as our Ramadan dinner, if we do a Seder, International Day of Thanksgiving, and also it could be community dialogues and engagement. So we participate in conversations and webinars that are hosted by the YWCA that we ourselves might host, that kind of bring up difficult conversations and talk about how this is rippling through our community. Any questions about kind of the mission or function so far? And I can't really see you in this mode, so you'll have to speak up instead of raising a hand.
None for me.
Okay, then I'll move on. So kind of looking then at the commission itself, the statute creates 9 public citizens who are appointed by High Point City Council. And you all help the city of High Point promote human rights. That's part of kind of the way the statute is written. And I also see it as building stronger communal ties and awareness across the city. So that's kind of like a very high level view of what you do. So to get kind of into it a little bit different in a different way, the expectations of the commissioners would be attend and participate in regular meetings, special meetings, and sponsored programs. So that would be this meeting. At various times, we've had subcommittees that we might bring back in some form or fashion. Those would be kind of what I would think of as a regular meeting or a special meeting. If we were to convene any special program, such as the International Day of Thanksgiving or National Day of Prayer, those would be things that you as the commissioners are expected to attend or make a reasonable effort to attend. We understand that you might not attend every single thing the commission does, but certain things do need to be attended for us to be effective. Meetings are a perfect example. When we don't have everyone here, we just can't have a quorum. We can't take any action. We can't move forward with these things. That goes as well for our programs. Often that you, the commissioners, are kind of the lifeblood of these programs in terms of making sure they happen, offering any kind of volunteer service, helping with our organization, and kind of just being a presence and representative of your community. So that while in those meetings and in those programs, it is also an expectation that you offer your unique viewpoint in these cultural conversations. So each of you are appointed by a city councilor, and you represent some aspect of the city that this councilor felt was important for this commission. Now, no aspect of your identity or your background or your skills are more important than anyone else's, but it is an expectation that you bring that unique voice that and those unique skills that the counselor saw in you in recommending you here. And that's also then an expectation that you would use your skills and expertise in service of addressing these community needs. As we're trying to promote these equal opportunities and protect these civil rights, we would hope that you would be able to offer some skills in doing that, whether your background is in organization, graphic design, you have connections to a church you have connections to other bodies across the city that might bring connections and resources, those kind of things that you would use to help the kind of central focus of the commission. And lastly, simply that you represent your community on the commission. So you are listening to the needs of your community or communities and bringing those needs to the commission so that they are heard by us and help us find a direction. And also that you then serve as an ambassador back to the larger community, that you take what you experience here, what you've discussed here, and you take it out into the community to try to encourage these goals and mission across the city. So that's a little bit on commissioner expectations. Any questions about kind of the formation of the commission or the expectations here, or anything anyone would like to add?
No.
I got a question, Race.
Sure.
This is Jerron Hollis. Are you going to talk a little bit more about the subcommittees at the end?
I can talk about those. That was not part of the presentation that I prepared, but I think that I'm happy to address kind of how they were formed and what they represent. I think that's an important part. So I'll just address it now a little bit, and you can add anything if I'm missing it. As of right now, there are 2 standing subcommittees. These have not been meeting ever since we went to a virtual format. So these committees were developed, I believe, in 2013 or 2014, and they are an international focused subcommittee and an interfaith focused subcommittee. And these were part of a program that the city adopted called Building Integrated Communities. And it was specifically a program to try to promote and integrate voices from different backgrounds to really unify the city around certain concerns. I think that these committees serve a really great function, and we have folks who have served on these committees over the years who would be happy to come talk to you about, and have been happy to come talk to me already about the many great things they do and the awesome things they've done to promote and develop, say, National Day of Prayer, which was something that grew directly out of that interfaith subcommittee. There are a lot of possibilities of subcommittees, and those can be something temporary. So our FAP housing security workshops was essentially a temporary subcommittee. When they're permanent subcommittees, they must be approved by the city council. But those could be used to address other things, such as if we, for example, determined that part of becoming a FAP required a subcommittee to be specifically focused on housing issues, that might become a permanent subcommittee that then a select group of commissioners would volunteer to also participate in all the regular meetings of that. Other possible subcommittees could be talking about community and neighborhood relations, could be talking about police community relations, could be talking about social justice issues, things like that. Those are in some extent, the majority extent, determined by you, the commissioners, and proposed to city council for approval. So it would be something that would be part of a broader conversation about what the community needs and what you as commissioners see would be best serving you in your role. Does that cover what you wanted me to cover, Mr. Hollis?
Yeah, that's great, Race. I just wanted to add a couple of things. I think if you go back to the slide you had about mission, foundational principles and missions, mission information. So historically, the international and interfaith subcommittees, they go back even farther than 2014. I think historically, those have been ones, but it did tie in, as Race alluded to, with the Building Integrated Communities Initiative. We can talk more about that at another time. But essentially, if you look at the mission, and then the next slide of that you have, Race, of the kinds of things that are a part of the function, some of it per ordinance, some of it just out of practical measures of practice of what we do. In recent years, we haven't had any problem with programs. We have not had any problems, say, doing a International Day of Giving Thanks. We haven't had any problems with our program that we do for National Day of Prayer, or when we did our Ramadan educational program. So the programs, we can find those as they are relevant. We have had issues with participation on at times with international and interfaith. And the biggest question that we always wrestle with from year to year with these subcommittees, which essentially the subcommittees provide that foundational basis, recommendations that come back to the full commission so that the commission can kind of have that guide of what kind of work is going on. Historically, the subcommittees have had members who are members of the community, not appointed commissioners, but other people, subject matter experts, if you will, or enthusiasts in those areas. But when you talk about a subcommittee, if we have an interfaith, if we have an international subcommittee, if we continue to have those, part of the balance that we try to find is what are the things, like you see on this slide, that we're committed to doing as part of our mission, but then finding that balance of the particular strengths, talents, and interests of the commissioners. So if we had a group of commissioners that were all well-versed in refugee and immigrant issues, it would be, we could probably be really effective having something that reflected that and finding that balance of that being part of our core mission. But if we had a commission that had little interest in items regarding to matters of faith for whatever reason, we could struggle to have productivity there, or even when we ask members of the community to participate. So think about committees, think about our programs, think about anything we do with the commission as us holding a party and inviting members of the community to attend. It's something that we are strongly behind, something that we are, as a commission, that you're in strong support of, and something that you're willing to put your time and energy toward. So we're inviting the community to be a part of what we're doing, rather than delegating something out to the community where we're not connected in some fashion. So I think that's just, as we move forward, especially when we talk about the retreat, I think it's important to think about these subcommittees as that foundation that will help provide the work or some parts of future work plans, or they could be the places where the information that comes in the work plan is sort of perfected. So, Race, I just kind of wanted to add that, but your explanation was spot on. But I just wanted to add sort of that historical component to kind of help people understand when we talk about subcommittees, the expectations, how they work, and what has and what hasn't been successful.
I appreciate that context. I think that's great.
Grace, this is Karen. Are commissioners, so are there commissioners on these two subcommittees now?
As of right now, no one that since they're not meeting, I mean, it's kind of
Okay. They're
difficult. Yeah, like technically there are not, but would there if there were meeting? Yes.
And there
so
are
no one is representing those committees, but they haven't met in over a year and a half because of COVID.
But there are expectations that each of us would be on a subcommittee of some kind, or?
Well, we've had some language, and that's a really, really great question. And what we probably need to do from a staff standpoint, and Race, you might have this already committed to memory, but in our ordinance, there are some specifications about the subcommittees. And I think from a participation standpoint, it's kind of expected as part of, I think, what Race talked about earlier, that in some way we divvy up the responsibilities with commissioners on helping these subcommittees be successful. I think the chair, and correct me if I'm wrong, because it's been a while since we've actually had those meet, and I'd have to brush up on some of that. But I believe the way it's written that the chair and vice chair and the members of these subcommittees are definitely a mixture of people from the community, non-commissioners. But we'll get some more, we'll dig around on that a little bit more. We've had situations where the chair and vice chair of those committees have been commissioners. I'm just not sure if that was in the last year or two, sort of, I won't say revised, but there was a different understanding of it. But as I can recall, the committee chairs were commissioners, and the members of the committees were members of the community. So there was some mix there, as I recall, but we'll get some more information to give you a better answer.
Okay.
Yeah, we can look at the specifics, but I do think it's similar in structure as well to Councilman Johnson joining us. He is a liaison between us and council. And so each, in council's case, each council has subcommittees, but it's not a guarantee that every councilman or woman has the exact same, distribution of roles. And that'd be true for the commission too. We have 9 commissioners. We've only ever had 2 subcommittees in the past recent years. Theoretically, you could have as many subcommittees as you wanted, but again, this is where it becomes a stress on your time. So if Commissioner Monzi says, I am super passionate about X thing, and I will help form this commission or this subcommittee on this thing, and I will serve as the liaison, that doesn't necessarily mean that Commissioner McGregor also has to do exactly the same thing. You may or may not have a subcommittee, and it would probably be, as Mr. Hollis was saying, those subcommittees should be formed with the passion and interest of the commissioners themselves, while also, kind of balancing that with an unmet need in the community, so that we can kind of look at that, if you can or cannot commit to that. And it might be that multiple commissioners are serving on a committee, or could even take turns submit, and that would all depend on the language. We can look at the specifics of that, but it's not a guarantee that every single commissioner has to serve on a subcommittee.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Are there any other questions? We were right to this point. All right. I don't see any other questions, though we will have more opportunities too. So the next, I just kind of, this is kind of preparing us for our next step, which is preparing a retreat, which will likely happen next month in October. And then typically we also do another one at the beginning of the year. So this will be kind of to help us get through the end of the year, but could also be laying the groundwork for even what next year might look like. And a work plan that's developed at the retreat does need to be approved by the city council. So as we're kind of developing this and brainstorming this together, I wanted to kind of keep a number of different concerns in mind. And one of them is I wanted to just give you a broad sense of kind of how human relations commissions function across America. Because, many of you may have not even have heard of a human relations commission before you were asked to serve on this one. So I wanted to give you kind of an idea of what they look like. And generally they fall into 3 roles, and often they have some kind of mix of these 3 roles. One role is advisory, where the commission itself gathers, analyzes, and synthesizes knowledge for use by the local government. So we served that function, and it's in our mission to serve that function when we explored the feasibility of a fair housing program in High Point. We were the ones who approved by our local government. We set out to figure out how could this be, how can we get the information on this? How can we gather that knowledge and ultimately prepare it into a recommendation, yay or nay, for council. So it kind of extends the ability of councils through this advisory function. A lot of human relations commissions function in that way. A second operation that you can do is to be a facilitator. So this would be developing programs themselves and events that serve the mission of the commission and promote communal growth and harmony. So again, we're already doing these kind of things. We might facilitate conversations. We might develop programs such as the homework help program. We might develop events such as our backpack giveaway, things like that. And we kind of look into various ways that we can actually have an impact in the community. And the third kind of general function for a Human Relations Commission is a quasi-judicial function. And so they address and evaluate specific needs under an established framework. So example of this would be the North Carolina Human Relations Commission, which if you have a fair housing claim, you can bring it to them, and members of that commission actually serve to help kind of look at specific things. So that could be in how it depends on how an ordinance is written, but there are investigations into those fair housing issues. And one aspect of that might be bringing that to review by the NCHRC. And so some human relations commissions take on these quasi-judicial aspects. This could be fair housing. This could be, equal employment. In some ways, this can also be community review boards, citizen review boards for police, which exist in various ways. Those are kind of related to human relation commissions. And so that would be kind of the three general functions. Obviously, these are not powers necessarily that you give yourself. You can't just decide as a commission, hey, we are now quasi-judicial and we have subpoena power because we want it. That doesn't work. These are functions that are established by City Council. So we have been given through our statute advisory power. They empower us to go, do some research and come back with recommendations. And we have been given facilitator power to develop programs and events that serve the city as a whole. We do not have quasi-judicial power. That is something that could develop it through further action on council's behalf, but it would not be something that you just choose to have one day. So that's kind of, as you think about what your role would be, think about kind of our current role is advisory and facilitating. So what would be things that you have a passion for that would actually be possible for us to do? So to bring a stronger point to it, possible considerations for our upcoming retreat might be, in addition to the questions Mr. Hollis has already brought up about subcommittees, kind of surveying what unmet needs in our community you feel connected to. What are things that you're passionate about that you understand already, whether those are areas that you work in already or that you have a heart for and are connected through a nonprofit or a group that you work with that is already in that space, or something that, I know Mr. Biggs, who previously was in this role, who you all know, he had a real passion for this homework help program. And as such, when that was decided on by the commission, he was really excited to make that happen and push that forward. So that might be something that you think about. Another question would be, what skills and expertise do you bring to the commission? So this might just be that, you already have a lot of knowledge about organizing concert series. And so you think that we should somehow organize a concert series. 1,000 musicians, you have connections to the Rockers Stadium, you own a PA that can blast 1,000 decibels. Those would be skills that you bring, and that would help us shape programming. And kind of also, as Mr. Hollis was already getting that, the other side of that is, what kind of commitment do you have to this role? So even though you might be an expert concert promoter, it still would probably, are you saying that you want to take on a series like Lollapalooza and you want to develop that on your free time outside of your job as part of this kind of volunteer activity of serving on the commission? And that would be a very different commitment than saying, I want to help the commission research and understand something that we believe the city council should do as a city function. Those are very different roles and kind of should affect how you're thinking about this. And finally, what programs or role might the commission sustainably develop? So that kind of relates to what kind of commitment do you individually have, but also what kind of programs might exist after your time. So if this is something that you want to develop, an individual event, such as our National Day of Prayer, if that was something that you had a passion for, you have a strong faith background and the skills to make that happen, absolutely, let's make that happen. What ways can we continue to do that if you're no longer a commissioner? Would that be something that it always relies on your skills and your connections? And if so, how would we pass that on? Or if not, then is that something that the commission should devote a ton of time to? And it may be, some programs are one-offs and some programs are long-standing. So those are kind of a few possible considerations I had as something to think. Does anyone have anything to add, Mr. Hollis, or any questions about how these work?
A few notes there, and I think, Race, that was a really concise way to kind of capture that. A few things. First, if you came up with a list, if everyone collectively came up with a list, 1 to 5, 1 being your most passionate cause and 5 being your least, part of being the commission, since what you're doing is reflecting the group collectively, is everyone talks about what kinds of things the commission as a whole wants to embark upon. And then the list of things that we end up doing might be number 2 and number 3 on your list. So the net effect is the collaboration of the group saying, yes, we are going to work on this. So it's not 9 individual science projects, if you will. So there's some collaboration that comes there. The other thing is, well, 2 other things. Second thing is with International Committee, for example, we have had, as a result of the work that's come through International Committee, there are some great examples of projects and initiatives that still stand or stood for a long time. Our international buyers program that we did with the furniture market, until COVID hit, every market, we would have members of the commission there. We'd have information set up for our international visitors that came in, and information about restaurants in the region, and greeting the folks as they came in. And oftentimes we'd have remarks from the mayor as a part of a kickoff or an opener at some point. We mentioned earlier our Ramadan dinner and just so many other things. Ramadan kind of checked 2 boxes of international and interfaith. So when used properly and when there's this all hands on deck approach, there's some very effective things that can come out. But just like we saw with the Fair Housing Initiative research, there are not but so many hours in a day. So I don't want you walking away from this meeting thinking that we've got 18 projects that are going to be due by the end of the year. Generally, we just do a handful, and we've been kind of trimming that down in recent years. What are 2 or 3 for a year that we've decided that collectively we'll work on, that we can move the needle, some of the other pieces that Ray's mentioned. But it's having those discussions and identifying those projects. And lastly, we're all about, we know that our commissioners are busy people. You've got lives outside of the commission. So our goal is always to make, whether it's a retreat, whether it's a commission meeting, whether it's an initiative or a project, our goal is always to try to make these things as efficient and productive as possible. So we want to have the best use of your time and the best use of our time and resources as a community and as a city. And those are some of the factors that go into some of the, not only the work plan items, but some of the discussions about the activity and now even the structure of subcommittees. So I just wanted to kind of have you keep those things in mind based on some of the experiences we've had over the years. But you will see, as a commissioner, you have an excellent opportunity, a wonderful opportunity to put things in place. And I always like to say, where can we function as a commission, operate where we are uniquely positioned to make a difference? If we decided as a commission we wanted to do furniture exhibits, well, that's already been taken care of. So, there are some things that other people are doing that are really, really great, and we can volunteer to participate in those things. Those things are fine. But when we talk about initiatives or projects that come from the commission, we usually like to operate in that space where we can uniquely make a mark or do something and fill a void or fill a gap where nothing's being done and we're able to do something. I think that's where you get your most appreciation, and I think that's where you make your biggest impact. That's all I have, Race. Thank you.
Absolutely. Does anyone have any questions or thoughts about this? This is the last slide in the presentation, so I'm not moving far forward. And in fact, we'll even, if we're done with the presentation, I can stop it so we can see each other's faces.
All right, thank you, Race. Any before we move to the next agenda item, any other comments, questions? Okay, so the next thing on the agenda is fair housing updates. Looks like it's back to you, Mr. McRae, again.
Sure, and this is very brief. We wanted to start with the orientation because that's the majority of what we're talking about tonight. So this is very brief. We know that at the last commission meeting, y'all voted on that, and that was a huge step. So we just wanted to make sure that you knew where it was and that it hadn't just disappeared off the map. Once you take a vote, it's over. That's not the case. The basic overview of where we are is that we are based on your vote and your recommendation and all that transpired at the housing security workshops. We are currently preparing a report and presentation that could be given to council, summarizing what we found and summarizing your vote. That also means that we're working with the city manager directly to discuss when is the best time to put this on the city council agenda. They have a very full agenda, as Councilman Johnson could tell you at any given time. They always have a lot of things going on. So I'm finding the time when this will be best suited for them, while at the same time making it as early as possible so that they can consider this matter. And so we're kind of working for the best time. We expect that will be presented this fall. And that's really all I can tell you, in terms of a date. The city manager will work with us to, that is her job, to find the perfect time to present this. So we'll make sure that happens. And then the other small update is that we have continued, based on this recommendation, to then have further conversations with HUD about what next steps would look like for us. I don't have any particular updates about that, but just wanted you to know that was the next step. Now that we know that you believe that we should do that, we went to HUD and said, how would we do that? What would that look like? The kind of findings from that conversation will be included in our message to council so that they have a fuller grasp of what this would look like and what's required of them. So that's kind of where we are. Are there any questions about that or any other updates that folks needed to share? I will also just add that, if you made any connections with folks along the way through those housing security workshops, if you know of any groups that wanted to support your recommendation or, kind of be a part of that conversation, feel free to reach out to them as you are kind of working through that. I know that we're always seeking as much input as possible. That is part of what council has tasked this commission with. So if you know groups who were part of that conversation and you have a personal connection, that would be great. And they can reach out to you or to us. I think we're on to the next item then, unless there are further questions.
Okay, the next item is the Human Relations Commission retreat. I guess we're trying to determine a time date. Is that what that's about?
that is what that is about. Interim Chair Davis was fully prepared to lead that conversation. So we will step up in his absence, but
Okay.
that was a conversation about when to do this. So now you kind of see what the task is at hand, what your kind of goal is, and what kind of questions to ask yourself. The next question is, when should we do that? We came with just kind of, I've talked with some of you individually already, and also talked a little bit with the commissioners who couldn't be here, who confirmed they could not be here. And it looks like the earlier part of the month would be easier, especially I'm thinking either, it looks like if this is, well, we can talk about a consensus, but it looks like the 2nd or the 16th. We typically do this on a Saturday because we want to give time for this, since this is the retreat is a place where you would, we don't do a lot of like icebreakers or games or filler activities. This is a work, for those of you who've been on this already, this is a working retreat. We will, basically spend the whole time talking about these items that you're bringing to the work plan. So this would be spending some time debating what that would look like, what we should focus on, and what we should submit to council as a work plan. And this would be maybe also include discussion of what, like forming that idea entirely. If in January, when we had the discussion about homework help, it was presented as, here's an idea of ways we can do a homework help program. But then there were various questions about, well, how do you do that? What kind of steps need to be taken along the way? Who's involved? What kind of research needs to be done? What is the workload? Things like that. So those will be the kind of questions that we work through. And as such, a retreat typically takes, in the experience that I'm aware of, somewhere between 2 and 4 hours, typically on, around 3 or 3.5. So we would maybe start at like a 9 and be done sometime between 12 and 1.
Yeah, historically, we've fed our participants, so you wouldn't be expected to fend for yourself during that time period. So that's important. And I think with the idea of the retreat, the way that we've reached consensus has usually been around a few items, and I think, Race, I don't know if you have that document, or Denise, if you can send that to the group in advance. In recent years, we formed a sort of a checklist that you'll see in the format of some of the previous work plan initiatives. And there are things like, how we measure success, what's the cost, things like that, which we go through in the retreat. So we ask ourselves those questions so that when we're making the presentation and recommendations to Councilmember Johnson and the City Council, they've got an idea of what we're asking, what it will entail, and those things. So those are a part of, so everything we recommend would be thought out to the point of how will it work, where will it be, how much will it cost, those kinds of things.
Yes, I do have that document, and I will send that out as part of the preparation work for that, just so everyone can look at that. It is a structured conversation, so you won't just, it is the expectation that you as the commissioners are driving that discussion, and therefore you would be the ones who are hoping to bring the ideas based on these questions I just asked at the end of that PowerPoint. But also, we will help direct you through thinking through all those things as staff members, since that is part of our job as essentially planners for the city in various ways. Those are the skills we bring to help assist you with that.
I guess you're thinking this would be virtual.
I think it's highly likely that it will be virtual, simply because, it's still potentially unsafe. We may have a discussion about how we could do it safely in person, but I don't expect that will change because we follow the guidance of the county and the city.
So as far as dates, you said possibly the 2nd or the 16th. I'm out of town on the 16th, so that date would not work for me. The 2nd, I'm good. So I'm not sure if you're keeping sort of a list of what our availability is, and maybe figure out how many people can be here, well, the most number of people to be here on a particular date.
I see, excuse me, Race, I see we have, after Commissioner Jones, I see we have a hand up from Commissioner McGregor too, so we'll get right to you. In the past, we've used things like the doodle poll, where we can find out those dates, and I'm sure that Race and Denise have crafted some kind of counting process to do that, but it's helpful to know when you're not available so that we can try to maximize. Our goal is to have full participation, so that's why. So if we get those rough outlines of the dates that work or the dates that don't work, we could incorporate a poll of some kind as long as we get response from the group to see what works for the majority of people. I think with the dates, I think it's also important that we establish from the group standpoint, when are we talking, and Race, this may be something for you, are we talking about a particular day? I mean, most of the time we've had these on Saturdays, but I don't know if there's different ways. I mean, sometimes depending on how it works for people's schedules, is that the best day? Are those some of the considerations that we have in figuring out what those dates are, what works for the most people to have that block of time?
Mm-hmm. Commissioner McGregor, did you want to go and add into that?
Yeah, I was just going to say the same thing, that I'm out of town that weekend of the 16th.
I guess the question then would be, are folks available the 2nd?
Yes,
I am.
I am.
Commissioner
Monzi's maybe not available 2nd.
She's like, oh, I know.
I actually compete that day, so I mean, my morning is gonna be, I'm competing that morning, and I might not have legs by the end of it, but if we do it maybe later in the afternoon, but don't quote me on that. I gotta check. Like, this is saying that I row, so I have a regatta that day. I have a competition, and so that is saying that it's still on as of right now. We're on. If it gets canceled, I mean, I'm not competing, but yeah, as of right now, we have a competition, and it's local, so it's here. It'll be at Ocala, so
Mm-hmm.
We could go.
we can have a meeting while I row.
Were you going to add something, Commissioner Gilbert?
I just said we could go watch. I mean,
There you go. Support each other. So I'm hearing it, at the very least, multiple commissioners are not available on the 16th. Are commissioners available on the 9th in general?
Ninth will work for me.
Either way, I can make it work. I'm available.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Price.
The 9th is fine for me also.
Yeah, I can do any of those three. I just can't do the last two in October.
We can, so I think that I'm hearing the 9th might work. I can look at that. I know that there is an event happening that afternoon that our staff might participate in. So that's why I'm hesitant that day, but we can, I'm sure, arrange our schedule around that. So I will confirm, and maybe we will use a doodle poll or something like that, but it looks like the 9th might be a particularly good day. So since we don't have a couple of our commissioners on here, we'll reach out to them electronically, but we will use that kind of as a template. It looks like multiple people are gone on the 16th. So the 2nd, perhaps in the afternoon, or the 9th in the morning are kind of the two places I'm hearing would be best. And Commissioner Gilbert?
Is any thought, and I don't know who does what, but would a Friday afternoon be a possibility? I mean, I think that's what Mr. Hollis was talking about when he said other times. You know, it may be that everybody's working jobs and they can't do that.
Possibly if we could, if we did it during the weekdays, have 2 sessions. I wouldn't be able to do like a 4-hour or 3-hour in the afternoon, but possibly a 2-hour and another 2-hour the following week or something like that.
Okay.
Maybe, I'm sorry, were you getting ready to say something, Giselle? Sorry.
Keep the 2nd open. It's on the 3rd.
Oh,
However, I might have like final practice, but figure that out later. It's on the 3rd. It's on a Sunday.
Oh,
okay.
I had to go and confirm the day because I'm like, I know it's that weekend. I couldn't remember if it was that Saturday or that Sunday. It is that Sunday, which we never compete on a Sunday. So this is like monumental. We usually compete on a Saturday. So keep the 2nd open and the 9th.
Okay. Then
But
those
Grace,
are-
I see you all the time, so I'll talk to you.
Yes. So perhaps with some of this feedback, Race, we know the sort of the dates with the leading, I guess the dates are the leading contenders for most participation. But if there are, to Commissioner Gilbert's point, if there are some options we could give as alternatives for, 2-hour sessions, just because our goal is to have to maximize participation. So with the information that we have, maybe we can come up with some dates and send some things out. Maybe it's a doodle poll, maybe it's something where we can vote, and then we can just collectively, because again, about half of you aren't here tonight. So, all these dates might work for the folks that are here, but then that could be completely different for some of the folks that aren't. So I think this gives us a good foundation about where to start with the date selection, and with some creativity and some technology, maybe we can maximize that. Just check your emails.
Yep, that sounds great.
Excellent. All right, so the last item is any additional items, considerations, anything else anyone wants to share, have a question about? And new commissioners, you guys have anything? You good? Everybody good?
I'd like to say here, I think we want to welcome, and I'm sure that Interim Chair Davis would say the same thing, to our brand new, our newish, and even our ones that have been here for a little while. We want to welcome your commitment and your sacrifice to participate is not lost on us. So thank you. I want to recognize Council Member Johnson and want to welcome him back. I know he had some things going on. I'll let him share what he'd like to share, but didn't know if he had some remarks, but just wanted to recognize him and welcome him back to the meetings.
Well, of course, I have something to add. Thank you, Mr. Hollis. I definitely appreciate you. And I missed you guys at the last meeting. Thank you all for those that were aware of my mother being ill. And so I had to make sure, first thing first, making sure we're taking care of my mom. So thank you guys for those that know about it, for praying for me and my family and my mother. But also I want to welcome our newest members. We definitely, speaking on behalf of the city, we definitely appreciate you, and it does not go unnoticed, as well as to all of the other commissioners on what we do for our citizens, our people. It just does not go unnoticed. And again, I thank you from the bottom of my heart on everything that we are accomplishing, even through a pandemic. We are accomplishing things and getting things done. So my hat's off to you guys. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Councilman Johnson. Anyone else?
I think we just have two
Oh, we got his
small
hand?
things.
Okay, I see Commissioner McGregor has her hand up also.
Yeah.
I
well,
just wanted
go
to
ahead.
take a minute to say thank you for being patient with me while I was out. I had a full knee replacement in July, so I'm not ready to run a marathon, but I'm ready to walk fast. So I appreciate you guys being patient. Thank you so much.
And still was an active participant in our housing security workshops. And we appreciate that.
Thank you.
I know Commissioner Monzi in her first meeting also has an item to bring up with us.
Thank you so much. Well, thanks, and happy to be here. So I'm sorry if I don't know all the terms or formalities. I'm first timer right here. But just wanted to share with everybody, and Race and I, we've spoken on the phone this week. I kind of mentioned it to him and he was like, we need to talk about this during our meeting. And so wanted to share with you guys, I work at the YWCA. I'm currently the director to the Latino Family Center. And so a lot of the work that I do is with the Latinx community, but we are having and I'm not gonna dive into it, but next week on September 17th, which is Friday of next week, we are having a Faith Action ID drive. For those of you that are not familiar with Faith Action, Faith Action International is an agency organization based out of Greensboro, and they work with immigrant communities, and they do a lot of outreach and different programs, but one of the things that they're mainly known for, not just here, but across different states, is that they have an ID. It is not a license, but it's an ID that it's approved by counties, county governments, cities, hospitals. They give IDs to immigrants that cannot go get an official state ID. And with this ID, many agencies, many partners, they accept it as an actual legal form of identification. And they've been doing this for years. And through the pandemic, we used to host it a lot, but then we just kind of came to a stop because of the pandemic and, and all that jazz. So we are happy to partner back with them. And so Friday from 9 to 4, there will be at the YWCA, and they will be doing these IDs. We are partnering with High Point Police. They will be representing there. We will have many different partners that I work with, that I partner with for different things. They will be representing and helping out as well. It is a day-long event, but they are asking people to make appointments just to kind of keep an order, because in the past I think it was by walk-in and anybody can come in at any time, but they restructure it, and so it's by 30-minute slots. The event is from 9 to 4, but there is a break in the middle. So they're doing first shift 9 to 1 and the second one 2 to 4. And then from there, the appointment slots are 30 minutes each. And so they do have an orientation. They have to go through the documentation process of making sure that, they need to bring in certain paperwork. They get vetted, they get their picture, and they get the ID, and they keep on going. So I'm super excited. This is not just for the Latinx community. This is for, anybody as a whole. And so Race will be helping me, reaching out to other agencies as well. And it's all over my social media. And we are pretty much just facilitating our space. And I'm excited for it because it's been a long time coming. And hopefully this will be the first one of many more. And if you're interested in going in to volunteer for a few hours, for an hour, for the day, for whatever you can give, I will be more than happy to accept your your presence with us. And so I will be there all day. A lot of my Bonner students, Bonner leaders from HBU will be there helping me as well, making sure that, you know, they can get from point A to point B, and also helping out with the process. But yeah, so that is the main announcement that I have. And so Race will be there as well. And that's all I have.
Yeah, thank you. And we will include information from Commissioner Monzi in our next update email. But I wanted to give you all kind of the heads up that that's happening if you want to participate. And also, as I mentioned, you know, you are an ambassador to your community. So you may know folks who are in need of an ID, and we wanted to arm you with this information so that you could return and send this out to your own communities itself. And the only other thing, since this is that I'm aware of, since this is something that we've brought up before, is also that next week is Bruce Deal is visiting for the community read that the High Point Public Library is doing. A lot of you have picked up the books for the community read. And if you haven't and would like to quickly read it over the weekend, you're welcome to. This is Trust First, and it is a big initiative with the Hayden Harmon Foundation and the library in bringing him to talk about this book. So he's going to come here. I believe it's it's next week. I believe either the Monday or the Tuesday, but we'll include information about his visit in our update email as well. I think that's everything that I have. I don't know if anyone else had other information they wanted to add.
Just a quick question for you, Commissioner Monzi. Is it posted on the YWCA website that we can share social media to get the information? I know you're going to send something in email.
Yeah, I think, I'm not sure if it's on I know it's on my page on the Latino Family Center, but if it's not on the YWCA, it'll be posted no later than tomorrow. So yeah, so it will be. And it will be shared on emails and everything, so.
Excellent, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, any other considerations, questions, comments? I don't think I see any hands. All right, so go ahead, Councilman Johnson.
Commissioner Stacy, you did a great job. That's all.
You're too kind.
Agreed. Thank you for stepping up.
Way too kind.
And so at this point, Commissioner Jones, you would ask for a motion to adjourn.
All right, sounds good. So can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I make a motion that we adjourn.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All right, Ms. Taylor, can you do the roll call?
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Jones. Commissioner Jones,
Aye.
Commissioner McGregor,
Aye.
Commissioner Price,
Aye.
Commissioner Monzi,
Aye.
Commissioner Gilbert,
Aye.
Interim Chair Davis. Did
We
get
lost him and he was not able to rejoin.
Okay, all right. So the motion passes by a vote of